Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about our top 24 Dynasty wide receiver rankings with tiers. If you haven't checked it out yet, go ahead and check our running backs that we just did and our quarterbacks. But we're going to be talking about our top 24 as of today. We're not including rookies, and this will be fun.
Hike!
So, Joe, who do you got for tier 5?
Yeah, tier 5, starting with number 24. I've got Jaden Reed, 23 JSN, 22 Rashee Rice, and 21 Jordan Addison.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. Okay. So for number 24, I've got Deebo Samuel. 23, I've got Mike Evans. 22, I've got Tank Dell. And 21, I've got Jordan Addison. Interesting, Joe. Looks like we took a little bit of a different approach. You went on a younger side. I have a little bit on the older side, having guys such as Deebo and Mike Evans. Do you have Deebo or Mike Evans in your top 24?
I do not. Nope. I really stuck with the these young receivers, like you said, that are interesting to me going forward. And it was a tough choice, but I ended up leaving some of these older veteran players out of it.
I'm really surprised you don't have Deebo because I feel like you really like him as a player. I struggled to keep him in there. I think that people are he's a magnet of a player. He had that wide receiver 3 seasons ago. But I think everybody is kind of referencing that as the, people remember that as like is the end all be all. And I just don't think his style of play is going to continue forth here. I think he's going to really start to slow down. But I struggled. He was a tough one. I almost put Devontae Adams instead of Deebo. What's that?
So, yeah, you were really looking at these veteran guys.
Well, I just think these guys are going to help you still contribute. That's why I like Mike Evans. He's 30 years old, but, man, that guy's a model of consistency. I mean, he was wide receiver 7 this year, wide receiver 17, wide receiver 9, wide receiver 11. I mean, we're going to be talking about Tyreek Hill later on. I understand Tyreek Hill's a whole new level, but he's 32. So if you feel that Tyreek Hill is a top player, but you're not worried about his age, then why aren't you worried about Mike Evans' age?
Yeah, it's true. I guess they're just different type guys. I mean, you're talking about Tyreek Hill still at his age, getting over 1,700 yards, pushing that possible 2,000 mark that he wanted to hit, just in a different type of offense. I mean, Mike Evans is the model of consistency. Hard to take that away from him. It's not really that I'm necessarily concerned about his age. Just, I don't know. I just think these younger guys are more interesting and possibly have a higher ceiling than him.
Yeah, if it was me, he's a buy. I don't say he's low, but I'm buying him at this point.
But as far as your point about Deebo, why I don't have him here, his injury risk scares me. Just he plays a really physical style. He's the ultimate breakout player, ceiling play. Like everything about him, just we've seen it in missing games. I also think he's in for some touchdown regression coming up. I mean, he had 12 total touchdowns this year. He had a really high volume in the red zone area, and if that doesn't happen again, then his production is going to be a little lower.
Yeah, I'm with you with Deebo, and I have no problem with your other guys. I mean, I have Addison as well. I'm going to be talking about some of those guys, down the road here. So I have no complaints with what you got here for tier number 5. How about for tier number 4? Who do you have for that?
Yeah, number 20, I've got Zay Flowers. 19, Tank Dell. 18, Michael Pittman Jr., 17, Drake London, and 16, T. Higgins.
Wow, very interesting. Okay, so for me, I've got number 20, Michael Pittman, number 19, Nico Collins, number 18, Jackson Smith-Njigba, 17, T. Higgins, 16, Rashee Rice, and 15, Stephon Diggs.
Wow, okay.
So you and I definitely have a difference when it comes to Stephon Diggs. My thought is, I know you're concerned that he might have lost a step. I don't think that's the case. I think Joe Brady, when he came into the offense, they had to change it around. I don't think it was his full offense. So I think that Stephon Diggs will get back on track. And he's a guy, again, if you're not worried about the age, then you shouldn't be complaining as far as Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill, you probably have him as a, top maybe 10. I would say top, even some would pay top like 7 dynasty wide receiver. So if you like him, I'm not saying that Stephon Diggs is Tyreek Hill, but if the age is a non-factor, then Diggs. I mean, look at the years that Diggs has had. Wide receiver 9, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 7, wide receiver 3. I mean, the guy's been the top of the top.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned about Diggs' age and if he's lost a step, honestly. It was just the fact that when Joe Brady took over, his role in the offense, I mean, the first 8 weeks of the season, he even said it, like he had like 800 yards, pushing 1,000 8 weeks into the season. And then all of a sudden it just production drops. Didn't seem to be that key focal point in the offense. Him and Allen didn't always seem on the same page. So that's kind of where my concern is that the new role of the offense that he's going to face? And that's what I'm more concerned about.
In looking at some of the other players we have here, I don't see Nico Collins. I'm guessing he's not in your top 24.
Oh, he's definitely in my top 24.
Oh, wow. Yo, the former Michigan man's even higher than I thought. Okay. So we'll hold on that one. I don't have Zay Flowers in my top 24. I don't have Drake London in my top 24.
Wow.
Yeah, I like Zay Flowers. I don't like where he's at. I don't think that offense in Baltimore is ever going to get him to be a top 10 receiver in fantasy. Just don't see it happening. So I just don't believe in it. So for me, it's hard for me to break him in the top 24. That's why I know I have Rice high. You had Rice in your top 24. I have, but I think he could be the kind of the guy kind of in the future. If they bring in somebody else, that's going to change things. This is prior to free agency, prior to the draft. So there's a lot of stuff that can still shake out here. London, he's a dynasty darling, has been for a long time. And now that there's a new head coach, Arthur Smith is gone, people are going to be all about him. I don't know. I'm a more of a believer in Pitts and Bijan. I guess you could say all three of them can be supported. I just don't think that I think people are expecting way too much out of this guy.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as Rashee Rice goes, I know that this is before it happens. I'm just concerned about them bringing other guys in for agency and fully expecting that, and not for them to roll out this same wide receiver core heading in next year. So that's why I moved him back a little bit. Like the talent, just he's operating as the number one target right now, and just worried about the crowded receiver room. How does he fit in? We even saw like in the playoffs his role just kind of even took the backseat to Travis Kelce for these playoffs, and in the Super Bowl, really didn't see him make that many plays. And then Drake London, I contemplated putting up Drake London higher, to be honest with you, but
I'm shocked by that.
That was it. Well, look, this guy has just he's got all the talent in the world. He's a young wide receiver and really just been strapped by, Arthur Smith's system, and the fact that they haven't had a quarterback. I fully expect them to fix that quarterback situation. And if that happens, I think he could really be the beneficiary of that.
I think that's so interesting to me. I don't know. I'm out on the guy. I mean, I guess he's done okay. I mean, he's had almost 1,000 yards over the past 2 seasons with the quarterbacks he's had, but only 6 total touchdowns. 2 last year.
Right. But they run a ton, and especially once they get down there. That's what I mean. But he's almost had 1,000 yards with these, Desmond Ritter's of the world, the quarterback, Marcus Mariota, even. Like, if they get a real quarterback in there, and then with this new offense potentially, with Robinson coming over from the Rams, I'm curious to see what this looks like.
Well, I'll be curious to see what your thoughts are on Kyle Pitts, being that you're so bullish on Drake London. If it also
really,
will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really not a Pitts fan, so.
See, that's the problem. I am, and you're not.
Yeah.
I gotta say, as far as the other guys, we're pretty similar. You and I have around T. Higgins around the same. I'm kind of starting to fade on him a little bit. Pittman, I think you're a little higher than I am. I have him 20. You have him 18. You've got JSN at 23. I've got him at 18, whereas you've got Tank Dell at 19, and I got him at 22. So we're basically in the same ballpark for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, for sure. T. Higgins, I mean, I'm more so. I like him there, but he can move up higher depending on where he goes, or does he stay in Cincinnati? But I'm not afraid of him leaving Cincinnati and going, because I think he's a true number one and he'll be the number one wide receiver wherever he goes in free agency.
I think that's right. I'm starting to have my doubts.
Why? The injuries?
He's had the injury issues. I mean, if you look at he was wide receiver 51 this year with the injuries, wide receiver 18, wide receiver 24, wide receiver 28. He's never really had a stellar year. He's just been mid.
Yeah, but he's got Jamar Chase. But even I've seen enough with Jamar Chase goes down. T. Higgins proves that he can step up and fill that role. And that's why I think, change of scenery. Joe Burrow's also dealt with injuries. And if he stays healthy, I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, one other quick comment to make here on JS. I know maybe some people are a little surprised I have him as high. I just think, for me, he was the most talented receiver coming out of that draft class. And I'm really excited about, I don't know about Mike McDonald per se, what's going to happen there, but I did see that they were able to, interestingly enough, poach, who now their offensive coordinator, who was going to be the offensive coordinator for the Washington Huskies. So that'll be really interesting. Do they get Michael Penix in the second round? I think that could be. I think he ran a pretty good offense, so that I'm kind of curious how that will turn out.
Yeah, for me, I really like JSN. I agree. I thought he was the best wide receiver coming out just from a talent perspective, but just didn't like the spot in Seattle. And honestly, Tyler Lockett could very still be there this upcoming year. I think depending with the way the cap situation shakes out, I think it's more likely that Lockett, they move on from him in 2025, as the cap hit would be less if they move on from him there. So just the crowded receiver room there, and then kind of the unknown at quarterback. We saw Geno Smith kind of come back down to earth this year, and without knowing who the quarterback's going to be, I was a little worried about him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. I think that they're going to need to address it, but I'm excited about that OC coming in because he did a lot with Washington, and wouldn't that be interesting if Penix? I think he could be available.
Washington also had really good players. Not to say that the Seattle Seahawks don't on the offensive side of the ball, but
what do you mean? They have great offensive players. They have Walker, Charbonnet, DK, JSN, Lockett. As long as they get that quarterback right.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
So, Joe, who do you got in tier number 3?
Yeah, tier 3, number 15 is DK Metcalf, 14 Nico Collins, 13 DJ Moore, 12 Jalen Waddle, 11 Devonta Smith, 10 Brandon Ayuk, and 9 Chris Olave.
Interesting. Okay. So for number 14, I've got Brandon Ayuk. Number 13, I got DK Metcalf. Number 12, Chris Olave. Number 11, Jalen Waddle. Number 10, Devonta Smith. And number 9, DJ Moore. So it looks like we were pretty similar to each other, Joe. Just some different rearranging here. Now you do have your Michigan man, Nico Collins, in here. Is that a little bit of fandom showing here?
Not really, no. It's truly just the fact that he really took the next step with CJ Stroud this year in the offense. And, it's really interesting when him and Tank Dell were on the field, both of them were right around averaging the 14 points per game mark. So even with Tank Dell, I know he really emerged, when Tank Dell went down, but even if Tank Dell's there, that gives me confidence enough that there's room for both of these guys in the offense to excel. And I really like the rapport that he seems to have. His air yards and target percentage as well was really impressive.
Yeah, Nico really showed off in the playoffs. I think really made a name for himself. And the thing I struggled with back and forth is it Nico or is it Tank or is it both? I struggled with that. I didn't really know what to think about it. The other thing where you and I kind of disagree on is I've got Brandon Ayuk much lower than you do. I've got him at 14. You've got him at 10. But then I have DJ Moore at 9, and you have him at 13. So what's the case for you and Ayuk so high?
So high? I mean, I feel like that's a good spot for him. I don't know. Ayuk, so it is interesting. There, I feel like you don't have him as high because you're nervous about where he potentially goes, and he fits well with the San Francisco offense. Mm-hmm. But if he stays with San Fran, because San Fran is cheap at quarterback right now with Brock Purdy. If he stays in San Fran, I really like him. That's where I have him at 10. He seemed to be the number one guy in that offense over Debo as far as target percentage and then what he's able to do after the catch, I mean, he's another explosive player. So that's why I've got him at 10.
Well, the news of the day tells you that Brandon Ayuk is talking about.
I see that. How many times do we see Trayvon Diggs talk about Stephon Diggs saying he was going to be out of Buffalo and there's real problems there? I don't know how much I read into that.
Here's my struggle with Ayuk. I feel like, what is this Niners offense going to look like in a few years? McCaffrey probably the next 2 years is gone. Kittle could be aged out, gone. Debo aged out, gone. So to me, then you've just got Ayuk left. And I think Brock Purdy right now, if he's the quarterback, is a huge beneficiary. Trent Williams, left tackle, gone. So all these pieces, they're going to have to reshape this team. And if they reshape their team, can Ayuk be the guy? I'm not so sure. I think he's a great complementary piece amongst all of those strong weapons. And I think he is the number one on the team, but I don't know if he can be the sole weapon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just think no matter what, with the Shanahan, as long as Kyle Shanahan's there in that system and the offensive system's there, that they can move around the pieces and they'll find new guys to fit into the missing pieces of the puzzle that you're talking about here. So I'm not really that concerned with Ayuk, and I just think he is a talented player and he'll have success.
And you've got DJ Moore lower than me. See, I like DJ Moore because I think if Justin Fields stays, I think he's good. He obviously did pretty well with him. And I think if Caleb Williams goes there, I think he could be even better. I mean, I'm a big Caleb supporter, if not as much. So to me, no matter the situation, I think DJ Moore's fantasy value is going to stay intact.
Yeah, I like DJ Moore a lot as well, but to me, I don't think Justin Fields is going to stay, so that makes me put DJ Moore at 13 because I don't like him as much with Justin Fields leaving. I've seen him in Carolina with different quarterbacks and how his fantasy value, that didn't shake out. I mean, really, he's turned it on here with Justin Fields being coming over to the Chicago Bears. I don't know
if I agree with that, and he's been relevant even with some bad quarterback play in Carolina.
He was relevant. He had some big games, but I mean, I know his talent's always been there, but he was disappointing from where you potentially take him.
I mean, he was wide receiver 6 this past season. Before that, wide receiver 24, 18, 23. Right. So you're not wrong there. He did take a jump.
Yeah, that's my concern. Is it without if it is Caleb Williams, but we'll see who it is or if it is that or not. And I don't know. Him and Fields just seem to be on the same rapport wavelength, and I'd concern about a rookie quarterback not being in sync with him.
All right, Joe, who do you got in tier 2?
Tier 2. So at number 8, I've got Puka Nacua. At 7, I've got A.J. Brown. 6, Tyreek Hill. And at 5, Garrett Wilson.
Interesting. Okay, so at number 8, I've got Garrett Wilson. 7, Tyreek Hill. 6, A.J. Brown. 5, Puka Nacua. How am I higher than Puka than you are? And then number 4, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I will have to say, I was very curious as to where you'd put A.J. Brown because I know we've talked about him a lot, and you've always kind of had him higher. You had, I think, in tier 1, prior to the beginning of this year. Now he's in tier 2. I can't believe I have him higher than you. I can't believe I have Puka Nacua higher than you. So I don't know what went wrong here.
What do you mean? I mean, that's just where I feel like things are. I mean, obviously, the difference is how we view Garrett Wilson compared to Puka Nacua. That's really where it is. Puka Nacua, he bursts on the scene. I love him as a talent, and I think he's good. I just so it's interesting because it's your train of thought, Steve. What's going to happen if Matt Stafford's not there and, with this Rams offense and, Cooper Kupp, leaves or whatever too. That's kind of the concern is like what happens then. I do think he's potentially quarterback proof. We just haven't seen it. And that's why I've got Garrett Wilson at 5 because not only this season, he's got Aaron Rodgers. Don't know how long Aaron Rodgers is going to be there for, but Garrett Wilson has showed me that he's quarterback proof. I mean, even this past season, he had well over 100 targets, still at 1,000-yard season with the crappy quarterbacks that the Jets were throwing out there. So that's kind of why I've got him at 5 compared to your 8 spot there.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Puka, I think, and I realize this now after the playoffs, I really think that Cooper Cup has passed the baton over to Puka. I think Puka is the guy now in LA. And I don't know how long Matthew Stafford will play for. He could play for, I mean, I think he's around 35, so 36. So, I mean, he could play for another 4 seasons if he wanted to go up to 40 years old. I don't know if he'll go that long or not. But even if he doesn't, McVay sticks around. I think I have confidence that McVay, he's used a ton of motion in his offense. Puka's moving up. He's probably running a whole football field by the time it's over after the game. But I just think he will know how to get Puka the ball. He's going to be a mainstay in the offense. So I'm not as concerned about that. I'm actually more concerned about it on the Garrett Wilson side. I think this Aaron Rodgers trade could start to look really bad for the New York Jets because he's going to be 41. I don't know how much longer he's going to play. I think Aaron Rodgers could play one more year and that's it. I don't think he wants to end on the Achilles tear. But then if that's the case, Joe, who's after Aaron Rodgers? They're back to looking for a quarterback again. And Jets have been one of the worst teams at trying to find something. And like you mentioned the other day, their offensive line is an absolute sieve. Even if Aaron Rodgers is there, what says they can even keep him upright? So, I still have Garrett Wilson at 8. I do like the talent. I just question when he'll ever get something from continuity standpoint. Aaron Rodgers will be here next year, but continuity wise, what will he have to show for it that he can actually sustain some really good seasons?
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That is the one risk. I just think, pretty much anything's got to be better than what they've been putting out there. Zach Wilson's been an absolute bust. They had Trevor Siemian throwing it out there at one point, and this guy still found a way to get 1,000 yards. That's what I mean. I think he could potentially be just quarterback proof, and no matter who's the quarterback, they'll find a way.
It's definitely possible if that's the case. I wanted to rank him higher, but I was getting a little nervous just by the team.
That's that's how I was feeling about Puka. I wanted to put him higher. You know how much I love him, but I just was trying to not let the recency bias kick in. Maybe he'll make me regret not putting him higher, but for now, this is where I feel like it's fair.
Trust me, I didn't want to rank him as high as I had him either, but it's like, I mean, how do you dispute it? I don't know. It was one of those things. He was wide receiver 4 last year. He's going to be turning 23 years old. I mean, you know what I mean? It's hard to refute it.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. It is.
He's not I'll put it this way. We're doing our rankings with tiers. He's high on here. He's not a guy I'm chasing to try to go get. I think there's a difference there. I mean, there are some guys in this list, even though maybe some guys that are lower than this that are more of favorites of mine that I would really want to go after. Just because I have him this high doesn't mean that I'm going. I think it's a misconception to say like, oh, well, I have him at 5. So that means anybody below that, I'd rather have Puka than those other guys. You can't look at it that way because what's the acquisition cost, right? Like the opportunity cost is what I'm looking for, right? Like the opportunity cost to acquire this person is gonna cost you quite a bit. And what is that gonna look like?
Yeah. I'm a little disappointed you don't have Amon-Ra St. Brown in tier 1. The respect that this man deserves, continually getting overlooked, most underrated wide receiver in the league, and all this guy does the last 2 years is produce, and you disrespect him in tier 2.
Here we go. Well, let's talk about him in tier 1 because you think he deserves it so much. So where is Mr. Amon-Ra St. Brown in your tier 1?
Well, I've got him at the same number as you at number 4, but he's at least in my tier 1. And I mean, I think our top 3 guys are going to be the same, just a matter of what our order is going to be. So obviously I got Amon-Ra St. Brown at 4, 3 CeeDee Lamb, 2 Justin Jefferson, and at number 1 Jamar Chase.
I got to tell you, I'm quite surprised by you saying that. I didn't think that you would have it the same way I do, but 3 is CeeDee Lamb, 2 is Justin Jefferson, and then number 1 Jamar Chase. I you've always said Jefferson is the better guy. You must be believing in, like me, that there's some concern as far as who his quarterback's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, if it's Kirk Cousins, I'll change this right now and go Justin Jefferson. But I don't know if it is going to be Kirk Cousins. So that's why I just got to give Jamar Chase the continuity. You'll be there with the Bengals with Joe Burrow, and staying in that offense, and everything staying the same. That's why I got him at number 1 for now.
You really think that Amon-Ra St. Brown is interchangeable with these 3 other guys, though?
Yeah, he's earned that. He's earned that right.
I don't think so.
To be in the conversation, Steve.
Him being in the conversation, being on the outside looking in at tier 2 is still okay. I don't think he has to be in tier 1 with those other guys. I understand he was wide receiver 3 last year.
Exactly.
So I can understand what you're saying. I'll tell you this. I highly considered putting CeeDee Lamb 1, which I know you would have thought I'm nuts on.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, though, I don't know why it's so nuts. CeeDee Lamb is 24. He's going to be turning 25. Justin Jefferson's going to be turning 25. And Jamar Chase is 24. So they're basically all the same age, okay? CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 1, 5, 19, and 22. This is PPR scoring. Justin Jefferson, 33, 1, 4, 6. And then Jamar Chase, 11, 12, 5. Of the 3 of them, Chase is actually kind of, if you look at it from a pedigree standpoint, I feel like hasn't been as good as of late. So really, to me, it ends up being a 2-horse race between Jefferson and Lamb. But we don't know what's going on with Jefferson, and Jefferson was injured. I think if Higgins goes, I think Chase could get even a higher target share than what he's currently getting. So to me, he has the best quarterback situation. No question about it, and that's why I have him at 1 because of that possible lock. Because we don't know.
As long as Joe Burrow stays healthy, that's the only that's another factor is why his stats were a little wonky compared to those other guys.
That's true.
And he was able to produce with Jake Browning in there as well.
Yeah, no, he was, but I honestly think you couldn't go wrong with any of these 3. But I'm going to disagree with you. I think Amon-Ra is.
Come on, man! 119 receptions, 1,515 yards, and 10 touchdowns last year. I mean,
I understand you like ARSB. He's one of your guys. I understand that. I think that he's been. Look, he went way up in my rankings compared to where I was before. I'm buying into him more and getting closer to you. I just don't. If you ask me today, what players could I have? I'm gonna say I'd rather have those 3, and there's a decent separation between the 2 that makes me put him in that other tier.
Very interesting. I mean, we got him at the same spot. Just I think he deserves to be in the top tier. That's all.
So that does it for our top 24 Dynasty wide receiver rankings with tiers. Like I mentioned at the top of the episode, if you haven't had a chance yet, go ahead and check out our Dynasty quarterback rankings with tiers and our Dynasty running back rankings with tiers. We had Fantasy Nerd Boy from Dynasty DJs join us. That was a great show. You're going to want to check that out. And our next episode, we're going to be talking about the Dynasty tight end rankings with tiers. You're not going to want to miss that.
Can't wait to see where you got Kyle Pitts in that one.
Oh, boy. Here we go. And until next time.